notice the absence of change and change that may or may not have occurred. So there's a double positive, double negative permutation in there. In your system, since this morning, since that quite relentless turning to the left. Now, of course, I say relentless turning to the left, but every time you turn to the left, you had to turn to the right again as well, didn't you? Because you came back to the middle. So it's not, nothing's ever as black and white as it seems. So in order to turn really well to the left, you do actually have to learn to turn to the right. And if there were any asymmetries after that lesson, are they still present? Or if you were more symmetrical, is that still present? Or how is this kind of sidedness operating for you now in your body image, or more specifically your body schema? So your scanning reference is from this morning, and now slowly come up to sitting with your feet to the right. So sitting left side sitting, and revisit your action, your doing reference, which is the spot. So legs to the right, Kwan, to the right, yeah, that way, the habitual way. How quickly can you form a habit? This is now a habit. Have fun and find your spot. So arm up. I feel like calisthenics. Feet to the right, arm up, eyes over the top. And slowly, slowly, quest for quality and find where, okay, this is where quality starts to diminish and I'm not prepared to sanction it. And because you are still, now you're, you know, your mats haven't moved between this morning, you roughly were all oriented to the front. So you can actually use the same visual reference. So eyes open and eyes closed. So you've got the kinesthetic reference with your eyes closed, what it feels like, how far you go. And then you've got the visual reference. So we've got two kinds of senses happening that you're referencing. No, you wouldn't want your elbow to bend heaps because it's weight bearing. It would get a little bit shaky if your elbow bent, but it can turn. It can turn around itself. And how's that? So what's your world view going to the left? And now come back to the middle and find a way to have your feet to the right, to the left. And find comfort. So for some people, now this is your habitual side to side sit. So it's like coming home. Other people it's like, oh, yeah. Other people, it doesn't make any difference, or you've never noticed, or what, you know, whatever. So again, I'm giving you, you know, sort of like some three quite distinct options, and you could be anywhere in there. And you're finding a way to lean on your right hand behind you. And do you, I mean, you just plonk your right hand down, and where it is where it is, or do you have this little moment where, is that exactly the right spot? Could I do better? Could I do worse? Like, play the field. You don't have to go out with the first, you don't have to marry the first person you go out with. And you're too young to have a habit about leaning, you know, on your right hand. Too young in this movement, I should say. All right. Have your left hand up, gently elevated. And you're starting to get this really nice, you know, first up, people were kind of hiking their shoulder and their chest were doing all sorts of things. And there's starting to be this really nice dangle. And again, establish that kind of connection with the eyes, that the eyes can look gently, or the image of the back of the hand on the wrist can gently hit your eyeballs. And then your eyes can gently lift a little and find the horizon. And you can go between those two. So your eyes are obviously open with this one. So there is this kind of rapport, you know, this relationship that you're quietly clarifying between your eyes and your hand and the arm. And that somehow that settles into the, you know, the trunk and so forth. And then take this eye-hand combination around to the right, slowly, gently, to a place where you think, okay, that's enough. That's where ease is still palpable. And if I go a little bit beyond, I know I'm compromising, and I don't want to compromise. I'm really committed to ease. I'm committed to what feels yummy, as in easy yummy. If you like hard yummy, I'll give you the name of other classes that you should go to. And where's that spot? So you find it with your eyes open first, remember? And then when you come back to the middle, so you're satisfied with that, close your eyes and repeat it and find the spot from a kinesthetic point of view, i.e. this movement sense, position sense of position and movement. More accurately, proprioception in my worldview. And then when you get there, a few times, so your eyes closed, then open your eyes when you get there and look to the horizon and see, is it the same spot? So channel your inner scientist and establish this kind of baseline, if you like. And it's a shifting baseline. No matter what you said about your relationship with change, you're built for it. Your nervous system is built for change. It's also built to create the illusion of stillness, so don't get too excited. Good, leave that. Do you need to rest? Rest any old how you like, just have a pause. You need to get off your right hand, you need to get off your bum, you need to get out of your head, just do that. And come back to that sitting position, side sitting to the right, taking a modicum of weight on your right hand. All right. It's elusive, isn't it, the rightedness? What is right and wrong? Very elusive. And close your eyes. And in your imagination, have your arm up. And in your imagination, carry your eyes and your head and your shoulders and your hands, everything to the right. And still in your imagination, everything stays there except your eyes come back to the left and then go to the right. Simply your eyes are different to the rest of you. And I'm choosing my words really, really carefully. They're different. They are differentiated. And then leave your eyes around to the right. So you're still around to the right in your imagination. Keep your eyes and your shoulders and everything to the right. And take your head back to the left. And do it a few times. breathing. So breathing is not imaginary, breathing is real. And if your imagination is pretty rudimentary, perfectly fine, it gets better, right? You get better at visualizing, either visualizing, seeing yourself, so that's third person imagining, or first person, which is sensing yourself, you know, kinesthetically, proprioceptively in your body, imagining. Just whichever way you do it, or a bit of both. Crack on. And now leave your head and your eyes to the right, and take your shoulders back to the left. Left and right, left and right. The eyes and head stay turned, and your shoulders only come back in the direction of the front of the room, and go around to the right to join your head. So they kind of separate themselves out from the pack. And then you bring them back into the fold. It's like that sheep that wanders off. It's different, differentiates itself. And it comes back, it's part of the group. Now once or twice, do the movement with your left arm up and reference back to your spot. Eyes open and eyes closed. And can your attention be inclusive? Things I haven't mentioned, like your sternum. Does your sternum turn around as well? So we've been kind of exclusive on the head, the eyes and the shoulders, a little bit attending to the right hip and the left hip, and the right sit bone and the left sit bone. What about this beautiful sternum? It's one of my favorite bones. The collarbones. The ribs on the right and the left, front and the back. Bless you. How do they carry around you, your whole rib basket? Turning around that that right shoulder. Beautiful. Good, lie down, have a rest on your back. And how's that? So from the turning left, turning left, turning left, now we've done a little bit of turning right. Simply the reference movement and some of the differentiating movements, the difference-making movements to the right. Now, why I'm making a big deal about the language, this word of differentiating, difference, different, difference-making, I'm putting these in there because this is part of our lexicon. This is a Feldy lexicon. I wouldn't necessarily use this language with a public class. It's not a word, you know, maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. It kind of depends. But I'm putting this word out there to land in your ears for a reason. And believe it or not, you already know the reason why, because you've felt the effects of this process. You just maybe haven't put it into language yet. I can see that you're all competent in this process of using differentiation. Just you don't know, it's implicit learning. It's not explicit necessarily yet. Okay, roll up to sitting, sitting to the right. And this time in reality, have both hands to the right side of your right knee and find a way to adjust so that there is relatively equal weight on each hand. You love them both equally. They're both equally responsible. You don't trust one more than the other. And in this position, find a way where you can lower your eyes to look, if you want to check out, you know, some fluff in your belly button, and then look up to the horizon and notice where your attention is first. Like maybe you're kind of living in your eyes first. That's my experience of it. If I language, I often live in my eyes. What I've learned to do with Feldenkrais is live in other parts, inhabit other parts of my body better, right? So can you start your attention, inhabit more of you in a very kind of equal way? So your shoulders, your sternum, so this chest bone, collarbone, what's happening, the ribs at the front and the ribs at the back. What's happening to the belly? So the belly kind of goes back and in a little bit as you go back, and then as you come forward, your belly lengthens in the front. So really feel, again, this embodiment of flexion and extension with a slight twist. It's the new cocktail. There's a slight twist. Would you like a flexion and extension with a twist? I think is the request. And what's happening in your hip joints? So what in the right hip joint? So there's actually a flexion and extension kind of movement happening in that hip joint in a funny kind of way. As you go back, both hip joints, it's more obvious in the right hip joint. Can you track that as well? This kind of closing, folding. But now the hips closing and folding as your trunk is straightening. Right, so now we're not doing these mass flexion and extension things like last week. This again is a process of differentiation. So one thing is extending and another thing is flexing. This is a really sophisticated skill that babies take a long apprenticeship learning. And it's more subtle in the left hip. What maybe is more obvious in the left hip is the way the left ischium, so the sit bone, goes back to the floor as you flex, and how it raises up off the floor and rolls you forward into this beautiful kind of, it's such a beautiful pose. And then you get the sense, it's not like you're tossing your head around in space. It's really like, you just get this feeling like it's my pelvis rolling backwards and forwards. It's folding me and unfolding me, erecting my trunk. Is diserecting a word? Anna, can I use it? Not really. All right, don't diserect. De-erect? No. Slump? No. Directless? Reckless? Oh no, we're never reckless in here. We are so considered. Our ED was called Frank Wildman, and one day I said to him something about, okay, you be frank and I'll be earnest. He didn't get the joke at all. Not at all. He's American. Roll onto your back. He is quite earnest. I'm quite frank. Anyway, whatever. You can be frank and I'll be earnest. He's a very smart guy. We owe a lot to him. Do you have a memory of that movement from this morning to compare with now? What is it that you compare, the ease or the pleasure? You might compare the range, but hopefully you're comparing the range, i.e. how far you went, with the ease of how far you could go, rather than just being so outcome oriented. So again, and one of the other, there's so many gifts in Feldenkrais for me, is I have been known to be very outcome oriented. And Feldenkrais is so process oriented. In order to clarify and help the outcome to become easy, an outcome that was impossible can become easy, it can become less effortful, become elegant, pleasant, all the rest of it. However, the focus is really on the process, right? It's in here on the floor, process. So for me, there was a real gift in slowing down and paying attention to the process. So for some people, it's like, what is she talking about? What else is there to pay attention to? You're happy in the process. I had to learn to be happy in process. So talk about change. Change is possible. Roll up to the side sitting on the right. Leaning on your right arm, and have your left arm suspended in front of your eyes. And, very quietly curious kind of way, check the, one of many outcomes. Is it an outcome or is it a signpost? Who knows? Go test out your spot, in other words. In a non-competitive, testosterone kind of way. Don't worry, women have testosterone too. I'm not having a go at the blokes. I should say a non-dopaminergic way, actually. Made Jenny frown. I'm being chemically more correct. Dopaminergic, related to dopamine. It's not really testosterone. And how's that spot? Did you check eyes open, eyes closed? So, is that pattern kind of happening? And now, in your own time, have both hands on the floor to the right of you. And remember some of the permutations from this morning. So I'll give you the three options. There's the shoulders, there's the eyes, and there's the head. They can all go together. Two can go together and one can be different. Now, any of those, so it could be any of those two, right? So the head and the shoulders could go together. The eyes are different. The eyes and the shoulders could go together and the head is different. The eyes and the head could go together and the shoulders are different. Now, the language of that is clunky. So turn it into an experience, a systematic experience. You've got three things and two options. They can go together or they can go apart. And quietly go about exploring the combinations. And this is a classic Feldenkrais strategy. Now, I wouldn't do this to the public. It kind of fritzes with them a bit. But, you are now of strong metal, even if you don't feel like it. And you can go small and you can go slow. And you can hold your breath if you have to, but I'm just giving you a little heads up. It doesn't help. So you're playing. And nobody's watching except me, and I don't count. And some of you are actually playing to the point where these movements are actually looking elegant. You'd think, oh, when that movement is all congruent, it looks elegant. But actually starting to make these differentiations look elegant. Now, blokes, if elegant isn't a word that speaks to you, I don't know, think of something that's more, I don't know, that looks good. Movement looks good. Fluid. Yeah, thank you. Masterful. Fabulous is a fabulous word. Fabulous can be a bit fabulous. Graceful. And graceful is a word that I love. If it lands well in your ears, use it. Delicious is a word that lands well in my mouth, if not my ears. Yeah, it could feel delicious, yummy, scrumptious, lively, something. So it's not a torture. It's not incongruent. It's kind of interesting. And the dancers in the room know this. You put in this a quirky, differentiated movement, and it can be really interesting, arresting. Leave it, rest. You can rest on your back. And again, quietly evaluate for yourself your sidedness, the right side of you versus the left side. And can I use the word evaluate, and it doesn't bring up any risings about, you know, right or wrong. It's simply an evaluation. It's not particularly judgmental. Just what's the state of play? It can be a benign word. And very briefly roll up to sit on your right side. So you're only going to be briefly on your right side is more accurate. Right side sitting, and check out your reference movement. How's it going? What's it like following the horizon around to the right? How the political commentary is going? I have to say you're quite a left-leaning bunch from the look of you. Malcolm Turnbull. There we go. And leave that, and have your legs in front of you so they're crossed. Just for not hardcore cross, and lean on your hands behind you. Find a place where your hands can be a little bit comfortable, and then lengthen your legs so they're out in front. And you might need to evoke some memories of past ATMs, i.e. from last Thursday, Friday. Find a way where you can kind of start shifting your weight from one sit bone to another, where it might be possible to bring your legs to as if you're going to sit on your left side. So going back into that position from this morning, so that your knees bend and your feet go to the right, and you can kind of sit on your left side, and then they come back around to the front and they swing around so that you can sit on your right side. Your knees. You can find a way where your knees extend out in front of you, and then something happens in your head and in your chest and in your pelvis, and funnily enough, your knees can pop up and out to the side. And then you could do two things. You could do two things. You could do a million things from this set of movements. It's sort of a bit of a foundation-y kind of movement. Could you do that in one movement? So go from your feet being on the right side of you to your feet being on the left side of you. and how your weight shifts and what happens in your pelvis. And where do your eyes go? So if your eyes follow your feet, you'll do something. If your eyes go into the dead bird position so that they actually go away from your feet, you look away from your feet, it's a different thing. Yep, so that back hand will come off the floor and you might look where? Around the horizon to the opposite side where your feet are. So it's actually taking the dead bird into a different position. Wow, there we go. Yes, twisted bird, sorry. Twisted bird. We did agree on another name. Thank you. Old habits die hard. I lost my awareness for a moment there. Okay, so there's two. Use your eyes to change the movement. Your eyes can orient to your feet, which is a different movement, or they can orient in the opposite direction to your feet. If your eyes orient to your feet, you'll go into the swivel, which is last week. Maybe, not necessarily. I'll tell you, I'm more interested in your eyes orienting to the opposite side of your feet. So if your feet are going around to the right, can your eyes go to the left? You can actually do either way. There's not a right or wrong here. Just because you actually, once you get this organized, you can do it both ways. So if your feet are to the right, I'm looking to the left. So you're kind of using your feet behind you, which is that's what this lesson was. And you're turning around yourself. There we go. And using that arm as a fulcrum. That's right. See how that arm, and you look to the arm that's the fulcrum. Yeah, that's it. You got it. A mermaid. So Kwan is channeling mermaids. Others of you can channel Lolita. That might be too loaded for some people. You might channel a seal or a slippery dip. I don't mind. Whatever. Evoke whatever you need to do, but just get clear about that. How you can flip this swiveling into a different kind of thing. And then muck around a bit and see if you can remember the swivel from last week. So forget everything I've said and just swivel like Zoran. Do the Zoran swivel. So it's still turning around an axis. That's the similarity, but your eyes are different. And if you go, Zoran didn't show you, but there's a little trick. If you go, whee, it really helps. It really helps. It's one of those little auxiliary movements. Yeah. But it's something that you might just want to do in the privacy of your own room. Beautiful. All right, lie on your back. Have a well-earned rest. Final check-in. And again, this checking in this is how you show that you care about yourself. You really lie down with this idea of, I'm checking in because I'm really interested in how you are. Because I care about you. I want to find out how you are. So when I ask you how are you, it's not the Australian how are you? Yeah, not bad. It's this, how are you? How are you going? How's your back? How's your right leg? How's your left leg? And you stop to listen to the answer. So when my clients come in, I ask them, how are you? And they go, yeah, fine. And I go, and how are you? So I ask them a second time, and then I get the answers. There's a deepening. So make sure you do that for yourself. Give yourself time to answer. How's the right-sidedness, the left-sidedness? Bless you. And if you're going to roll up to sitting, which way would you go? And then do it. Come up to sitting. Interesting. So half of you come up to left and half came up to right side sitting. That's good. Come up to standing. And now hopefully there's not too much of that residual asymmetry. So, oh, but I don't want to judge, you know, I don't want to dictate your experience. So feel for yourself, turning around to see the people on the right. Remember this morning, the people on the right side of you just seemed a little bit smelly, and the ones on the left were a little bit nicer. So the ones on the right now got a little bit more, you know, pleasant. I am teasing you, but however it was this morning, the right world and the left world, and this ability to sweep around the horizon, which means you're turning on this vertical axis. So this is rotation. Okay, so last week was the world of flexion and extension. These couple of days are the world of rotation, turning around this vertical axis. And what does it offer you? It offers you the horizon. It gives you the world, right? So flexion and extension can get you up off the floor and down onto the floor, let's say. And then this rotation opens out your world. Could you imagine life without rotation? You know, you would be that robot that I talked about. So take your rotating and flexing and extending selves to either take water in or take water out, or, you know, attend to physiological stuff. And we'll come back in 10 minutes. It's just a quickie.